What if I told you that the ancient mystics who practiced manifestation thousands of years ago understood something about reality that modern quantum physicists are only now beginning to prove? What if the secret to turning your thoughts into physical reality isn't just spiritual mumbo-jumbo, but grounded in the most cutting-edge science of our time? Today, we will shatter everything you thought you knew about manifestation. We're diving deep into the hidden laboratory of consciousness, where thoughts become things, intention shapes matter, and the impossible becomes inevitable. This isn't your typical manifestation video filled with wishful thinking. This manifestation is backed by Nobel Prize-winning physics, neuroscience research, and discoveries that are revolutionizing our understanding of reality. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why some people can manifest their dreams effortlessly, while others struggle for years without results. You'll discover the precise scientific mechanisms transforming mental energy into physical reality, and learn how to align yourself with these universal laws to become a master manifester. But first, let me ask you something that might blow your mind. Have you ever wondered why prayer has been scientifically proven to heal people from a distance? Why did women who were prayed for during fertility treatments have nearly twice the pregnancy rate of those who weren't? Or why even animals who were prayed for healed faster than those who weren't? The answer lies in the quantum field of infinite possibilities that surrounds us every moment of every day. The ancient wisdom that predicted modern science. Long before we had particle accelerators and quantum computers, ancient civilizations understood something profound about the nature of reality. In the sacred Hindu texts called the Upanishads, written over 3,000 years ago, we find this remarkable statement: "As you think, so you become." The ancient Egyptians practiced Heka, the power of words and thoughts to influence physical reality. Greek philosophers spoke of the No, the cosmic mind that shapes all existence. These weren't primitive superstitions. Modern science is now catching up to these sophisticated understandings of consciousness. The ancient practitioners knew that reality isn't fixed, that consciousness plays a fundamental role in shaping what we experience, and that the boundary between mind and matter is far more fluid than we've been taught to believe. The Hindu concept of Maya teaches us that what we perceive as solid, unchangeable reality is an illusion. Everything is energy in constant motion, constantly shaped and reshaped by consciousness. This isn't mystical poetry, but quantum physics, as described in ancient language. When we look at the Greek magical papyri from ancient Egypt, we find detailed instructions for what they called influencing reality through focused intention, visualization, and ritual. These weren't desperate attempts at magic, but systematic approaches to working with the fundamental laws of consciousness and energy that govern our universe. The ancient practitioners understood something we're only now rediscovering: that consciousness isn't produced by the brain, but rather, the brain is a receiver and transmitter of consciousness. They knew that by aligning their consciousness with universal principles, they could reshape their physical reality. The quantum revolution that changes everything. Now, let's fast forward to the early 20th century, when a group of brilliant physicists began to uncover truths about reality that would have made the ancient mystics smile with recognition. Quantum physics revealed that, at the most fundamental level, reality isn't made of solid particles at all. It's made of probability waves, potential realities that exist in infinite possibility until consciousness observes them into existence. This is called the observer effect, one of science's most thoroughly tested and verified principles. When scientists observe a quantum particle, observation causes the particle to collapse from a state of infinite possibility into a single, definite reality. The consciousness of the observer determines which reality manifests. Think about the implications of this for a moment. If consciousness can determine the behavior of fundamental particles, and if everything in the universe is made of these particles, then consciousness can influence everything in the universe. This isn't philosophy, this is physics. But it gets even more mind-blowing. Quantum entanglement shows us that particles can be instantly connected across vast distances, influencing each other instantaneously, regardless of the space between them. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance. But modern experiments have proven it beyond any doubt. This suggests that everything in the universe is fundamentally interconnected at the quantum level. The quantum field that underlies all reality exists in a state of pure potentiality. Every possible outcome, every potential reality, and every dream you've ever had exists as a probability wave in this field. Manifestation collapses these probability waves into physical reality through the focused application of consciousness. When you visualize your desired outcome with clarity and emotional intensity, you're not just daydreaming. You're entering the quantum field of infinite possibilities and selecting which probability wave you want to collapse into your physical experience. You're performing the same function as the scientist in the quantum physics laboratory, except instead of observing particles, you're observing your desired future into existence. The neuroscience of manifestation. But quantum physics is only half the story. The other half lies in the incredible discoveries being made in neuroscience about how our brains create our reality. Your brain is not just a passive receiver of information from the outside world. It's an active constructor of reality, constantly filtering, interpreting, and creating your life experience. Your brain processes about 11 million bits of information every second. But your conscious mind can only handle about 40 bits per second. This means that your subconscious mind is filtering out 99.99999% of reality. The question is, what determines which 40 bits you become conscious of? The answer is your beliefs, expectations, and dominant emotional states. This is where the science gets exciting. Your brain has something called the reticular activating system, or RAS. This part of your brain determines what information gets through to your conscious awareness. When you set a clear intention for what you want to manifest, you're programming your RAS to notice opportunities, resources, and possibilities that were always there, but were previously filtered out. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Modern neuroscience has discovered that your brain can't distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you visualize your desired outcome with enough detail and emotional intensity, your brain creates the same neural pathways as if the experience had happened. This is called neuroplasticity, the biological mechanism through which manifestation works. Every time you visualize your desired outcome, you rewire your brain to expect that outcome. You're creating new neural networks that make you more likely to notice opportunities, take inspired action, and attract the people and circumstances that will help make your vision a reality. The emotional component is crucial here. Emotions aren't just feelings. They're electromagnetic frequencies that your heart generates. The heart has more neural connections going to the brain than the brain has going to the heart. When you feel the emotions of your desired outcome as if it's already happened, you're broadcasting a specific electromagnetic frequency into the quantum field. This frequency acts like a tuning fork, attracting experiences that match its vibration. This is why gratitude is so powerful in manifestation. When you feel genuine gratitude for your desired outcome, as if it's already happened, you align your electromagnetic frequency with the frequency of having rather than wanting. The vibrational universe. everything in the universe is vibrating. This isn't metaphysical speculation, it is measurable physics. Every atom, every molecule, and every cell in your body is in constant motion, vibrating at specific frequencies. Your thoughts and emotions have frequency, and your beliefs create standing wave patterns that influence the quantum field around you. The law of vibration states that everything in the universe is in constant motion, vibrating at specific frequencies. Similar frequencies attract each other while opposing frequencies repel. This is the scientific basis for the law of attraction. When you align your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs with the frequency of your desired outcome, you become a vibrational match for that reality. But most people don't understand vibration. It's not just about thinking positive thoughts. It's about achieving coherence between your thoughts, emotions, and actions. When these three elements are aligned and working together, you create what scientists call coherent energy, which has far more power to influence the quantum field than scattered, incoherent energy. This is why affirmations alone often don't work. You send mixed signals into the quantum field if you say, "I am wealthy," while feeling anxious about money. Your emotional frequency contradicts your mental frequency, creating incoherence that blocks manifestation. The key is to achieve heart-brain coherence, where your thoughts and emotions are perfectly aligned. When you can think about your desired outcome while genuinely feeling the feelings of already having it, you create a powerful, coherent signal that the quantum field responds to immediately. The role of consciousness in creating reality. Now, we come to the most profound aspect of manifestation science: the role of consciousness itself in creating reality. Consciousness doesn't emerge from complex brain chemistry, as materialist science would have us believe. Instead, consciousness appears to be a fundamental universe property, like space, time, and energy. This understanding is supported by some of the most advanced theories in physics, including integrated information theory and orchestrated objective reduction. These theories suggest that consciousness is woven into the very fabric of reality at the quantum level. If consciousness is fundamental to reality, it makes sense that focused consciousness could influence physical outcomes. When you meditate on your desired outcome, visualize it with clarity and feeling, and align your entire being with that possibility. You're not just hoping for something to happen. You're actively participating in the creation of reality itself. This is why meditation is such a powerful manifestation tool. In deep meditative states, your brain waves shift into alpha and theta frequencies, the same frequencies that the Earth itself resonates at. In these states, you become more coherent with the natural rhythms of the universe, making it easier to influence the quantum field. The ancient mystics understood this intuitively. They knew that by quieting the mind and aligning with universal consciousness, they could access what they called the field of all possibilities. Modern science is proving that this field exists at the quantum level, and that consciousness is the key to accessing it. Why some people manifest easily, while others struggle. Now we come to the crucial question. If the manifestation is based on universal laws of physics, why do some people seem to manifest effortlessly? In contrast, others struggle for years without results. The answer lies in understanding the difference between coherent and incoherent manifestations. Coherent manifestation happens when your conscious desires, subconscious beliefs, emotional states, and actions align. When these elements work together, they create a powerful, focused signal that the quantum field responds to quickly and efficiently. Incoherent manifestation happens when these elements conflict. You might consciously want financial abundance. But if your subconscious mind believes money is evil or doesn't deserve wealth, you're sending contradictory signals into the quantum field. The result is either no manifestation or manifestations that come with unwanted side effects. Most people who struggle with manifestation deal with what scientists call cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort that occurs when your beliefs, emotions, and actions are inconsistent. This dissonance creates energetic static that interferes with the manifestation process. The solution is to identify and resolve these internal conflicts. This is where techniques like shadow work, belief reprogramming, and emotional clearing become essential. You can't manifest from a place of internal contradiction. You must achieve coherence between all aspects of your being. Another factor that determines manifestation success is what quantum physicists call measurement precision. In quantum mechanics, the more precisely you can define what you're observing, the more likely you are to collapse the probability wave into that specific outcome. The same principle applies to manifestation. Vague desires produce vague results. If you want to manifest more money, the universe might send you a penny on the sidewalk and technically fulfill your request. But if you specify precisely how much money you want, by when, and for what purpose, you give the quantum field precise parameters to work with. The placebo effect in belief. The placebo effect is one of the most potent demonstrations of consciousness affecting physical reality. In medical studies, patients who receive fake treatments often experience real healing simply because they believe the treatment will work. This isn't just psychological. It's consciousness changing physical reality at the cellular level. The placebo effect shows us that belief is one of the most potent forces in the universe. When you genuinely believe that your desired outcome is possible and inevitable, you create what scientists call expectancy effects that influence probability at the quantum level. But belief alone isn't enough. The belief must be supported by what psychologists call self-efficacy, the confidence that you can take the actions necessary to achieve your desired outcome. This is why successful manifestation always involves inner work, aligning your consciousness, and outer work, taking inspired action. The most powerful beliefs for manifestation are what researchers call a growth mindset. The understanding that your abilities, circumstances, and reality can be changed through focused effort and learning. When you believe you can learn to become a better manifesto, you're more likely to persist through challenges and ultimately succeed. The science of synchronicity. One of the most fascinating aspects of manifestation is the role of synchronicity. Meaningful coincidences that guide us toward our desired outcomes. Carl Jung, who coined synchronicity, believed these weren't random coincidences, but evidence of an underlying connectedness in the universe. Modern physics provides a scientific explanation for synchronicity through non-local correlation. Just as quantum particles can be instantly connected across vast distances, events in our lives can be connected through the quantum field in ways that transcend normal cause and effect relationships. When you align with your desired outcome, you become more sensitive to the subtle patterns and connections always present in the quantum field. What seems like a lucky coincidence is that you are becoming aware of the underlying order that connects everything. This is why it's essential to pay attention to synchronicities when manifesting. They're not just interesting coincidences. They're feedback from the quantum field, showing you that you're on the right track and guiding you toward the most efficient path to your desired outcome. The future of manifestation science. We're living in an extraordinary time in human history. For the first time, ancient wisdom and modern science converge to give us a complete understanding of how consciousness creates reality. The implications of this convergence extend far beyond personal manifestation. They're revolutionizing our knowledge of healing, creativity, innovation, and human potential. Researchers are now studying the effects of group meditation on crime rates, the influence of collective intention on random number generators, and the ability of focused consciousness to influence biological systems at a distance. The results consistently show that consciousness is far more powerful than we've been taught to believe. As we continue to understand the quantum nature of reality, we're developing new technologies that can amplify the manifestation process. Biofeedback devices can help you achieve heart-brain coherence more quickly. Neurofeedback systems can train your brain to produce the optimal brainwave states for manifestation. Quantum field generators may soon be able to amplify the effects of focused intention. But the most important technology is the one you already possess: your consciousness itself. By understanding the scientific principles behind manifestation and applying them systematically, you can master your reality. How do you apply this scientific understanding to your manifestation practice? First, understand that manifestation isn't magic. It's applied quantum physics and neuroscience. Approach it with the same systematic precision that a scientist brings to their research. Start by achieving clarity about what you want to manifest. Be specific, measurable, and emotionally compelling. Remember, the quantum field responds to precision. Next, achieve coherence between your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. Use meditation, visualization, and emotional clearing techniques to align all aspects of your being with your desired outcome. Practice heart-brain coherence by feeling the emotions of your desired outcome as if it's already happened. This creates the electromagnetic frequency that attracts matching experiences. Take inspired action when opportunities present themselves. Manifestation isn't passive. It requires you to meet the universe halfway by acting on the guidance and opportunities that arise. Please pay attention to synchronicities and use them as feedback to adjust your approach. The universe is constantly communicating with you through meaningful coincidences. Finally, maintain unwavering faith in the process. Remember that you're working with fundamental laws of physics that are continuously operating, whether you believe in them or not. You must align yourself with these laws and allow them to work through you. The hidden science behind manifestation reveals that you're not separate from the universe. You're an integral part of it, with the power to influence reality through the focused application of consciousness. This isn't wishful thinking or positive psychology. This is cutting-edge science revealing the true nature of reality itself. You have within you the same creative power that formed galaxies, grows flowers from seeds, and beats your heart without your conscious effort. By understanding and applying the scientific principles of manifestation, you can learn to direct this power consciously and create the life of your dreams. The ancient mystics knew this truth. Modern science is proving it. Now, it's time for you to experience it for yourself. If this video has opened your mind to the incredible science behind manifestation, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more content that bridges ancient wisdom with modern science. Your support helps us continue exploring the cutting edge of human potential and consciousness research. What aspect of manifestation science fascinated you the most? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And let's continue this conversation about the quantum nature of reality and your power to shape it.